So if you go back to 2004, the strategy for Test cricket was, well, it was pretty simple. You basically just had to survive.
Right, yeah. Survive and outlast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this grueling 5-day marathon of endurance, right? And the unwritten rule is that you know, let the risky balls go, you tire the bowler out, and you just protect your wicket at all costs.
Yeah, patience was literally the entire game plan.
Right. But okay, imagine one guy walking onto the pitch, completely ignoring like a century of meticulous coaching manuals and just deciding to sprint that 5-day marathon.
Just totally blowing up the paradigm.
Totally. Imagine scoring over 300 runs in a single afternoon and leaving the opposition in like a state of complete tactical panic. Because today, we are diving deep into the source material, the articles, the biographies, the match records, all surrounding Virender Sehwag.
Oh man, one of cricket's absolute most destructive openers.
Yeah, he really is. But our mission for this deep dive goes way beyond just looking at his batting average. We want to figure out how his fearless, entirely unorthodox approach earned him the title Sultan of Multan.
And how he essentially broke the physical and psychological mechanics of the sport.
Exactly. Forcing the establishment to, rewrite its rule book. And most importantly, what you listening right now can learn from his ability to just experience unbridled joy under immense suffocating pressure.
Because the pressure was very real.
It really was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand why his style was such a massive shock to the system, we kind of have to look at the immense resistance he faced just to get on a pitch in the first place.
Yeah, because the foundation of his entire philosophy, it wasn't built in some high-tech international stadium. It was forged in Najafgarh.
Right, a town in Delhi.
Exactly. He was born there in October of 1978. And you really have to consider the cultural context of India in the 1980s and 90s, especially for a middle-class family.
Yeah, the sources mention his father, Christian Sehwag, was a grain merchant.
Right. And in that specific environment, the established, safe path to success was purely academic. I mean, becoming an engineer, a doctor, or maybe getting a stable government job, that was the blueprint.
Sports were just like a hobby.
Barely even that, yeah. They were largely viewed as a distraction. It certainly wasn't seen as a viable career path.
And the source material is really clear on this point. I mean, his extended family was brutally skeptical of him.
Oh, absolutely.
They actively questioned his path, the sheer amount of time he spent away from his studies. But his parents, despite their modest means, they provided this incredible, unwavering support.
Which is so crucial to his story.
It is. But even when he did get to the local cricket academies, he really didn't fit in. All the other kids were obsessed with textbook defense.
Yeah, learning how to present a straight bat.
Playing it safe.
Yeah.
Exactly. While Sehwag just wanted to dominate the bowlers right out of the gate. I kind of picture it like a rogue jazz musician sitting in the middle of a very strict classical orchestra.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like everyone else is meticulously reading the sheet music, terrified of playing a wrong note, and he's just sitting there waiting for his turn to blast out this wild, deafening improvisation.
Yeah, just completely off script.
But I do have to ask, looking at the sources, was this just pure stubbornness on his part? Like, was he just an arrogant kid who refused to listen to his coaches? Or was this a calculated choice to play to his natural physical strengths?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, labeling it as mere stubbornness really misses the mechanism of what was actually happening.
Okay, what do you mean?
It was psychological conditioning. That early friction with his extended family, combined with all these coaches constantly telling him his aggressive technique was quote-unquote wrong, that laid the mental foundation for his entire career.
So it was like training.
Exactly. He wasn't just learning how to hit a cricket ball, he was training his mind to completely tune out external noise.
He was building an armor against expectations.
That is the perfect way to look at it. I mean, when you're repeatedly told by society that your career choice is wrong, and then by experts that your method is wrong, you face this binary choice.
You either break or you dig in.
Right. You either break and conform, or you develop an ironclad, just unshakable trust in your own instincts. And because he chose to trust his instincts early on, by the time he reached the highest levels of international cricket, the pressure was nothing to him.
Like a hostile crowd wouldn't faze him?
Not at all. A hostile crowd or a bowler running at him at 150 kilometers an hour, it felt entirely manageable. Because he had already survived the hardest psychological battles in his own neighborhood.
Wow. Which I guess brings us to how that homegrown defiance actually translated when he hit the professional stage.
Yeah, the domestic debut.
Right. The sources note his domestic debut for Delhi in the Ranji Trophy. And for you listening, if you're not familiar, the Ranji Trophy is India's premier domestic cricket competition. It's basically the main pipeline to the national team.
Reproving ground.
Exactly. So it's the 1997-98 season, and he announces himself by scoring a massive century against Punjab.
And that century, it wasn't just about the volume of runs. It was a proof of concept.
Right, showing it actually works.
Yeah. It proved to the national selectors that his aggressive, unorthodox style wasn't just some parlor trick for local games. It could actually yield massive results in high-stakes environments.
And that gets him pulled into the under-19 squad.
And eventually the senior national team.
Right. Now, his one-day international or ODI debut in 1999 was pretty quiet. He didn't make a massive splash right away.
No, it took a little time.
But his Test cricket debut in 2001, that is where the narrative shifts. He debuts against South Africa in Bloemfontein, and he comes into bat at number 6.
Which is a crucial detail.
Let's pause there, because batting order matters immensely in cricket. Number 6 means you are coming in later in the game.
The ball is older.
Right, it's a bit softer. The bowlers are slightly more tired. And he scores a brilliant century from that spot. But the real turning point, looking at the records, is when the team management decides to move him up to the opener position.
Oh, yeah. The transition to opener is arguably the defining moment of his career. I mean, in Test cricket, the opening batsman faced the absolute worst conditions.
It's just brutal.
It really is. The ball is brand new, which means it's rock hard, and it swings wildly in the air. Plus, the fast bowlers are completely fresh.
They're bowling at maximum velocity.
Exactly. So the traditional job of an opener is simply to survive, to blunt the new ball and tire the bowlers out so the rest of the team can score later.
Which sets the stage for March 2004. India is touring Pakistan. And this isn't just any match.
No, not at all.
It's the first Test match in Multan. It carries this immense historical and political weight of the India-Pakistan rivalry. The pressure is just suffocating.
And the Pakistani bowling attack was legendary.
Insane. They had guys like Shoaib Akhtar, who is literally one of the fastest, most terrifying bowlers in the history of the sport. So the strategy manual says, you play it safe, you leave the dangerous balls alone, you just survive the heat.
But Sehwag doesn't do that.
No, he walks out and does the unthinkable. He scores a triple century, 309 runs.
The anatomy of that innings is really what makes it historic, because he scored those 309 runs off just 375 balls.
Which is absurd for Test cricket.
It's unheard of. That included 39 fours and 6 sixes. And to understand the shockwave this sent through the sport, you really have to look at the tactical ecosystem of the time.
Right, how captains set up their fields.
Exactly. Test cricket captains set their entire fielding arrangements based on the assumption of patience. They place fielders to stop slow, methodical run accumulation.
Right. They're setting a trap for a marathon runner.
Yes. And suddenly, Sehwag starts sprinting. When a batsman starts hitting boundaries with the frequency of like a frantic single-day match in the middle of a 5-day test, the fielding captain's pre-planned strategy just disintegrates.
They have to totally scramble.
They do. They're forced to scatter their fielders to the boundary ropes just to stop the bleeding. But by pushing the fielders back, they open up these massive gaps in the infield.
Which Sehwag then ruthlessly exploited for easy, quick runs.
Exactly. He didn't just score points, he induced widespread tactical panic. He effectively took the game away from Pakistan in a single session.
And that's how he earned the nickname Sultan of Multan.
That's the one.
Okay, I'm looking at these stats and I am genuinely stuck. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources go deep into the mechanics of his batting technique. And it totally defies everything taught in sports.
It breaks all the rules.
I mean, whether you play tennis, baseball, boxing, whatever power and precision come from your feet, footwork is everything.
It's the first thing they teach you.
Right. The cricket manuals say you have to move your feet to get your body into the optimal physical position to strike the pitch of the ball. But Sehwag had almost zero foot movement.
Yeah, he basically just stood his ground.
I have to ask, isn't relying purely on hand-eye coordination instead of proper footwork like an objectively terrible, physically impossible idea for generating that much power?
Well, for the vast majority of human beings, yes, it is a terrible idea.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
No, you're not. Footwork is taught globally because it acts as a mechanical safety net.
Hmm.
It basically guarantees your body weight is aligned behind the swing.
Oh.
But the sources highlight a fascinating piece of sports physics regarding Sehwag.
Oh, do tell.
When you move your feet to execute a shot, your head inevitably bounces or shifts slightly.
Even if it's just a fraction of an inch, right?
Right. And when your head moves, your eyes move, which means your brain has to constantly recalculate the trajectory of a ball that's flying at you at 150 kilometers an hour.
Oh, wow.
So Sehwag sacrificed the mechanical safety net of footwork for total visual stability. Because his feet barely moved, his head remained perfectly still, acting like a locked camera tripod.
That is wild.
It allowed his eyes to process the length and line of the ball fractions of a second earlier than a traditional batsman.
I love that visual. I was thinking of it like a military tank versus a stationary turret.
Yeah, that works perfectly.
Because a traditional batsman moves like a tank, right? They have to maneuver their treads to get into position before they can fire. But Sehwag just planted himself like a heavy turret.
Sacrificing mobility for firepower.
Yes, for unparalleled visual processing and sheer rotational power. He used this immense hand speed to execute shots that usually require full-body movement. The sources talk about his cover drives, where a player smashes the ball through the offside field.
Classic shot.
Right, and he was doing it with just the lightning-fast crack of his wrists.
And that physical stance, it was inextricably linked to his psychological warfare. Because he was picking up the ball's trajectory so early, he felt a supreme sense of control.
Which really showed in how he handled major milestones.
Well, especially the nervous 90s.
Yes, the nervous 90s. Explain that for the listener.
So in cricket, when a batsman gets into the 90s and is approaching a century, 100 runs, the tradition is that the game basically grinds to a halt.
Everyone gets really tense.
Exactly. The batsman gets nervous about losing their wicket right before this massive personal milestone. So they block the ball, they take slow singles, they eliminate all risk. The crowd gets quiet, the bowlers apply pressure, and the whole game just slows down.
But the sources show Sehwag sitting on like 94, 95 runs, facing the fastest bowlers in the world, and he decides the most logical way to get to 100 is to just casually smash the ball completely over the boundary line for a six.
Because for him, reaching a century with a massive six isn't just about putting runs on the board, it is an act of psychological devastation against the bowler.
It's such a flex.
It really is. It sends this glaring message. Your milestone means absolutely nothing to my aggression. I will not cower, I won't change my game, and I am entirely devoid of fear.
It totally shatters the bowler's confidence.
Because it proves they have zero psychological leverage over him.
And the craziest part to me is the demeanor he maintained while executing this destruction. Like, the sources talk about his jovial nature.
Oh, he was always so relaxed.
Right. He wasn't out there scowling, projecting this hyper-masculine, intense warrior energy. He was literally smiling.
Humming songs.
Yes. He would hum Bollywood songs while waiting for the bowler to run in. He was this massive source of positive energy in the dressing room. I mean, I have to imagine that for a fast bowler who spends all his energy trying to intimidate you,
Oh, it must be maddening.
seeing you smile and hum a tune before hitting them to the boundary, it's infuriating.
It completely neutralizes the bowler's primary weapon, which is intimidation. When aggression is met with joy, the aggression just loses its teeth. His relaxed nature was, in itself, a highly effective tactical advantage.
But, we have to look at the reality of this approach, too. A strategy built on zero fear and high risk guarantees monumental peaks, but it also guarantees deep, brutal valleys.
Yeah, you can't escape the math on that.
And Sehwag's career had its fair share of both. Let's look at the peaks first. I mean, we could talk about his multiple records like holding the highest individual test score by an Indian with 319 runs against South Africa in 2008. Or his 219 against the West Indies in ODIs.
Massive, massive numbers.
But the sources really point to the 2007 T20 World Cup and the 2011 ODI World Cup as defining chapters.
The 2011 World Cup especially played on home soil in India. It carried a suffocating level of national expectation. And what Sehwag provided wasn't just runs.
Right, it was a mindset.
He provided an absolute momentum shift at the very start of the innings. In fact, in 5 consecutive matches during that tournament, he hit a boundary off the very first ball he faced.
Hitting the first ball of a World Cup match for a boundary that instantly tells the opposing team, we are in charge.
It sets the entire tone.
That set the tone that allowed the rest of the Indian batting lineup to play with total freedom, which ultimately led them to win the entire tournament.
Yeah.
But relying entirely on elite hand-eye coordination, it has a biological expiration date.
It does. The human body changes. As he got older, those fractions of a second in visual processing began to wane slightly.
And when you don't have footwork to fall back on.
Exactly. When a player who doesn't use footwork starts misdirting the ball by even a millimeter, the results are catastrophic. He experienced severe dips in form.
And the criticism from pundits and former players was just savage. The sources detail how they tore into him.
It really did.
They claimed his lack of footwork had finally been exposed. They accused him of getting out on reckless, irresponsible shots. Eventually, dealing with injuries and this massive loss of form, he was dropped from the national team entirely.
A huge blow.
And I think there is a profound reality here for anyone listening. When you insist on doing things your own way, your failures are going to be scrutinized far more harshly than if you failed doing it the normal way.
Oh, 100%.
Like if a textbook player gets out, commentators blame a good delivery from the bowler. When Sehwag got out, they blame his arrogance.
What's fascinating here is how he responded to that exact dynamic. Because the true measure of Virender Sehwag's greatness wasn't that he never failed.
Right.
It was his staggering resilience when the entire establishment turned on his core identity. When he was dropped from the national squad, the easy thing to do would have been to conform.
To adopt a defensive technique,
Right.
show respect to the bowlers.
Yeah, beg for his spot back. But he refused to let the criticism rewrite his DNA. Instead, he went and played in the IPL, the Indian Premier League, captaining the Delhi Daredevils and playing for Kings Zigaf Punjab.
Which makes sense because the T20 format of the IPL was practically tailor-made for him.
Oh, completely.
A short, explosive format where his natural aggression was the whole point. He just kept playing the game he loved exactly the way he loved to play it.
And that is a phenomenally difficult skill to master. I mean, the ability to absorb intense national-level criticism and still look in the mirror and say, I trust my method, requires a mental fortitude that far exceeds physical technique.
Which brings us to his life after the boundary ropes. He officially retired from international cricket on his 37th birthday, October 20th, 2015. But walking away from the pitch didn't diminish his influence.
No, he just shifted his arena.
Exactly. His post-retirement career has been so vibrant.
He took that fearless, highly entertaining personality and channeled it right into a career as a commentator.
And people love him for it.
They do. He is notoriously witty and direct, and he's built a massive social media following because he analyzes the game with the same unpretentious joy that he played with.
But the sources also highlight that it's not all just quick jokes on a microphone. He is doing significant heavy lifting behind the scenes.
Yeah, his philanthropic work.
Right. He established the Virender Sehwag Foundation, pouring resources into healthcare and education for underprivileged children. He built the Sehwag International School in Haryana with the goal of giving kids from all backgrounds access to world-class education and sports training facilities.
Which is incredible.
And he's highly active in mentorship, running coaching clinics and working with young players in franchises like Kings Punjab.
And that mentorship is really where his ultimate legacy solidifies. Because Sehwag didn't just leave behind a book of batting records, he permanently altered the landscape of the sport.
The actual meta of the game changed.
Yes. Before him, the blueprint for a test opener was a dour, cautious survivor. After him, the global standard shifted.
Everyone wanted a Sehwag.
Exactly. If you look at modern international cricket today, teams actively hunt for opening batsmen who can dominate from the first ball. He proved that you can play with extreme risk, you can dismantle the traditional mechanics of your field, and you can play with visible joy, all without sacrificing elite world-class performance.
So what does this all mean? Why does the story of a cricketer from Najafgarh matter to you listening right now?
It's a great question.
I mean, maybe you are sitting in traffic, maybe you're prepping for a stressful corporate meeting or trying to get a creative project off the ground. Virender Sehwag's life is a masterclass in trusting your own operating system.
Yes.
It is a reminder that the proper way of doing things, the way the experts tell you it has always been done, is often just the safest way. It is not necessarily the best way for you.
Usually it's not.
Right. If a system doesn't suit your natural strengths, you do not have to contort yourself to fit it. You can lock in, ignore the noise, trust your instincts, and most importantly, you can actually enjoy the process, even when the pressure to conform is just suffocating.
Which really raises an important question to leave our listeners with. Sehwag was a maverick precisely because he existed in an era of strict, cautious rules.
His rebellion was a shock to the system.
Exactly. But today, his hyper-aggressive, fearless style has essentially become the standard blueprint for modern teams around the globe. His rebellion became the establishment.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of it like that.
So if his style is now the expected norm, what will the next generation of Mavericks have to do to break those rules?
Man, that is a phenomenal thought to end on. The Rebels blueprint literally becomes the new rule book. So for everyone listening, take a hard look at your own environment, whether it's in a project at work, a creative endeavor, or just how you manage your daily life. Where are you playing it safe just because that's how it's always been done?
Maybe it's time to shake things up.
Exactly. Maybe it's time to stop worrying about the footwork, step out of the textbook, and just take a swing. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Sultan of Multan. We will catch you next time.